Okay.
Nigerians who worry about the place of faith or religion in our politics have a genuine reason to worry even more. The latest flare-up appears to be a planned event in the presidential villa, according to reports, to be hosted by the president and the vice president to unveil a $1 trillion or naira halal economy that Nigeria can benefit from. From what I've read, it appears that a lot of very prominent people are taking strictly religious lines around this issue. Rather predictably, but I have to say also disappointingly, some of those people are prominent Nigerians that should be standard bearers and who should be setting standards in terms of how a nation, a multi-religious, multicultural nation should live. At every turn, you have these people who look for opportunities to widen the divisions between Muslims and Christians, sometimes at great cost to the real Muslims and Christians who want to see faith improve the quality of governance and the way they live with people of their own faith and people who they don't share the same faith with. This is a great country made up of people of many religions, many faiths, many beliefs. Yes, our constitution says we're a secular country. What that means is that the state shall not be identified with a religion. It doesn't say we're godless people. It doesn't say we should not relate with the world that is fundamentally founded on faith to the degree, provided, of course, that it doesn't harm a single Nigerian who is either Christian or Muslim. So when you put the latest outburst against Nigeria availing itself of the opportunity to benefit from a huge halal economy, along with the clamor that Nigeria should be classified as a country of special interest by some loud voices in the US, and what appears to be some latent support and some sitting on the fence defense, you have to worry. After 100 years of existence, Muslims and Christians have created a world in our country where substantially faith does not interfere with the way we relate with each other. Why do we have people who think that you're not a good Muslim unless you're fighting a Christian, and that you're not good enough a Christian unless you resist everything that even remotely looks like pandering to Muslims or appeasing Muslims? My understanding of this appears to be that there are people whose job entirely is to exploit these fault lines for their own interests and to keep us permanently on our knees because we're unable to overcome the issues that divide us on the basis of faith or ethnicity or where you come from. And I think that Nigerians, genuine Muslims, genuine Christians, should rise up against these people. We need to tell these champions of doom and gloom that we can live as Muslims and Christians in a country that addresses equity and fairness and justice for everybody. They should tell some of these people that we don't want to fight each other simply because we are Muslims and Christians. They should tell some of these prophets of doom that Nigeria is not going to break up because they don't want to see the slightest move towards one faith or the other. When people make arguments that Nigeria is a secular country and therefore, particularly against anything that even remotely looks like an issue that involves Muslims, Nigeria is a secular country, so don't change anything about it. The constitution that says that didn't say that Nigerians should also forfeit their faiths. It didn't say that we should stop being Christians and Muslims. What it says is that we are a secular country and the foundation for peace and equity and progress lies in sustaining a country of faithful people or people of faith who should live together. There are millions and millions of Muslims that will not live in a country that refuses to accept the fundamentals of their existence as Muslims. And the same thing applies to Christians. We have come a long way. Why is it that at every turn there are people who are waiting for any opportunity to say, they are favoring Muslims, or they are trying to do something that is against Christians in this country? And I have to say this, Muslims are Nigerians too. They have the same right as non-Muslims. The Constitution was not written by Muslims. It wasn't written by the Christians of Nigeria. The Constitution was drafted by Nigerians, Muslims and Christians. And they chose to make it, to say that Nigeria is a secular country. This country was not created by Muslims. The people who became Christians largely after the British came to this country, colonized people who became Christians after, they didn't design this country. We were a colonial creation. But we have learned to live with each other substantially. A nation of 240 million people live substantially in peace with the fact that we worship different gods, we go to different places of worship, we interact. So why is it that we allow people who blow the whistle at everything that even remotely smacks of faith? There's nowhere in Christianity, to my knowledge, and I'm sorry if I don't have the full texts to prove it, but I don't think that there's anything among Christians that says you should fight Muslims at every turn because they're Muslims. And as a Muslim, I can tell you that there's nothing in Islam that says we should fight Christians for being non-Christian, for being non-Muslim. It tells us how to live with Muslims, it tells us how to live with non-Muslims, and it tells us how to relate with each other. Every context in which Muslims exist is defined by the Quran and by the Hadith. So these tendencies that people, these weaknesses and tendencies that people pander to are very dangerous. Those who insist that America must classify Nigeria as a country of special interest because there are claims that there is a genocide against Nigerians, I don't understand how ordinarily educated people are missing the point. If we start fighting each other, Americans are not going to come into this country to fight for Christians. The Muslim countries are not going to come to this country to fight for Muslims. We will fight each other to the end, and the world will move on. We don't need this propaganda that's going on.